The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this podcast, its host, or its affiliates. The information shared in this episode is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice. Additionally, we encourage listeners to remember that lawsuits and legal matters are often complex, and the information presented may not represent all sides of the issue. Listeners are encouraged to seek independent verification or consult legal professionals for further clarity.
Best thing is, that you have to be able, to have done, exactly what you're asking them to do, as we talked about before, but it's not easy. Anyone who owns a business will tell you managing people is one of the hardest things. And,
A flip phone, a fax machine, and a pager walk into a bar. The bartender says, "What is this, a museum?" Technology moves fast. What was cutting edge 20 years ago is now more nostalgia than necessity. Sure, a flip phone can still make calls just fine, and a fax machine technically works okay. But why settle for fine when you can have better? If your back office technology still relies on email inboxes and manual workflows, it's time for an upgrade courtesy of ePay Manager powered by OTR Solutions. With ePay Manager, you can modernize your processes, streamline invoice audits, and automate payments with proactive workflows that don't rely on those email inboxes. The result? Faster invoicing, stronger security, and 50% lower back office costs. Don't let your business get stuck in the past like that pager you stopped carrying in 1999. Visit epaymanager.com or text ePayFC to 80483 to bring your back office into the modern age. Struggling to find and retain qualified staff while keeping costs in check? In today's competitive logistics landscape, this challenge can make or break your bottom line. Ameripol offers a solution that helps reduce staffing costs by over 50% without sacrificing quality. Born out of logistics, they understand transportation industry demands. They provide talented EU-based professionals who seamlessly integrate with your team, allowing you to scale operations efficiently. Don't let staffing challenges hinder growth. Optimize your workforce and boost profitability with Ameripol. Visit transport.ameripolstaffing.com to discover how Ameripol can help your business operate more efficiently. Today's podcast is also brought to you by Happy Robot. AI workers allow you to train once, scale without limits, and leverage every single data point. Happy Robot's AI workers can be deployed across your business. Common uses are carrier sales, check calls, and POD collections, but workflows can be configured to any use case. Happy Robot connects to your systems to handle phone calls, emails, or any other communication channel. Data from every conversation is logged and leveraged for future sales. Customers benefit from operational efficiencies and time back to handle exceptions, build customer relationships, and proactively close deals. Happy Robot is automated communication built for the supply chain. To learn more, go to happyrobot.ai.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by FreightFlex. Ready to take control of your future? Freight agencies are everywhere, but how do you pick the right one? At FreightFlex, we're proud to offer the #1 freight agent program in the nation, backed by an unmatched tech stack and a world-class support team. It's time to ditch the corporate grind and build your own freight agency powerhouse. Take charge, earn what you're worth. Contact us today for a tech demo and see why FreightFlex is where business owners are built.
Let's talk nice. We're talking about how it's dark out here. I'm in Poland, coming to you live from the most wild part of Poland, the northeast Podlasie region, which translates close to the forest, right next to the forest. We've got wolves out here, wild bison, all the good jazz. And Dylan's, you were saying right before we started that you've traveled to Europe quite a bit as well, and your favorite place is Marbella, Spain. Tell me more, baby.
Correct. I appreciate you having me on, Tom. It's a great day. As we were chatting before we went live, I've traveled to Europe, Italy, Greece, Paris, all the places. But one of my favorite spots is Marbella, Spain. If you're big on Instagram, look it up. It's got a little bit of a California vibe, a little bit of a Florida vibe. Nice place to be, some good food, good people. So it's one of my favorite spots. So, I'll have to take a trip there again soon. Maybe we can meet there.
Is that northeastern Spain?
No, so it's southern. So it's almost by northern Africa. So you can actually take a little ferry across, and then you'll be in Morocco. So yeah, it's in the southern part of Spain. So water's decently warm depending on the time of year you go. I went a few years ago, right before we went to the Monaco F1. We stopped down in Marbella, Spain. So it's a good time.
Dylan, I've been to Alicante, which is southeastern, and I know it's like
Yes.
renowned for like pirate, like a history of piracy and
Yes.
like outlaw regions. So Marbella is not too far from there. You say more inland though is my guess now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, brother. So Europe. Do you do any business with Europe? Being in the trucking
No,
industry,
so we
freight
just do
caviar?
mainly North America. So we'll do United States, Canada, Mexico, the islands, Hawaii, stuff like that. But most of our stuff is all in the U.S.
Islands, Hawaii. That's not something you hear every day.
Yeah.
So tell me about freight essentials. How'd you get started in freight essentials? How'd you get into freight? Um,
Yeah. No, so we can go into my background a little bit, give you a 60-second snippet of Dylan Admire. So originally I'm from Kansas City, grew up there. I played football at the University of Kansas for 4 years. So I was a Jayhawk. If you're a basketball, football fan, you've probably heard of them. So then I got into training athletes for a few years. After that, I went to Kansas State and worked at Kansas State University, got my MBA classes there. Then after that, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I don't think most people go to school or, graduate high school and say, I want to be a freight broker, and so it's not something that most people really think about. So I ended up working for Freight Quote by C.H. Robinson in their Kansas City branch. Worked there for 3 years, won Rookie of the Year and all the accolades that went along with that. Had a great experience there, learned some great stuff from some great people. And then after that, we went to GlobalTranz. I was at GlobalTranz for 3.5 years, started that business with nothing. I've told that story before, how I had $900 to my name and grew it to really what it became. Grew that business to about $40 million in 2023. We were their largest agent at the time, the number one agency. In 2022, there was a company called BLX that got purchased by them. And then we became the number one agency after that. And, that's obviously, what's been in the news lately is all the stuff with the RICO lawsuit, other lawsuits that we filed against them. We were there. And then after that whole thing happened, we diverted and, have kept the business going, had to rebuild the business. Rebuilt the business to $20 million in 11 months after the whole situation happened there, which I know we will get into today. That's a little bit about Freight Essentials, and how it started.
Okay. That's a lot. It sounds like you're a freaking winner, man. Have you always been that way? Have you always been a winner?
I've always been that way. I've been super competitive since I was little. My parents, if they were on here, they would tell you they would get calls in middle school from my gym teachers that I was too competitive at dodgeball and basketball and pegging kids in the head. And, it's just, it's in my blood. I love playing sports. I started playing competitive sports at like the age of 5. And I think you see so many entrepreneurs and so many people who are successful with former sport backgrounds. I know there's certain companies that legitimately target collegiate athletes because it's all about a mindset. You got to be persistent, you got to be consistent, you got to be disciplined. And whatever you do in life, whether it's going to school, starting your first job, or relationship, owning a company, if you have those 3 traits, you can be successful. I think from an early age, that my parents ingrained that in me, and I'm very blessed, to have them do that.
Nice. You mentioned football at the University of Kansas. You were a Jayhawk.
Correct.
Were you playing? I get a linebacker sense from you, brother.
That's what most people guess. I played offensive line actually, so I was a bit chubbier in those days. Eat some Domino's pizzas here and there. I played offensive line. I played center. Once I got done playing, I lost some weight. I actually own a gym and some other stuff as well now. I love training, love working out. So played offensive line when I was a college athlete.
Stud. I love that, man. You're right about a lot of athletes. Maybe not every athlete dreams of being a freight broker. However, I worked at Coyote, and Coyote was all college athletes and just studs, killers. And they were able to thrive in our industry, in our environment. And
100%. I mean, I think a lot of people, as I joke, no one goes to school, wakes up in the morning when they're 18 years old, like, I want to be a freight broker. But to be honest, it's one of the biggest businesses around the world, and specifically in the U.S., but around the world. You have global supply chain. Everything, whether you're in Poland or you're in the U.S. or you're in Ukraine, wherever you're at, things have to be transported. And it's kind of like the silent thing that no one thinks about. When you're at home and you have all these food and these beverages and these clothes and these shoes, how did they get there? And it just didn't appear at Walmart. It went, through many different routes to get there, and people were making little bits of money all along the way. I always tell people the logistics industry is not a get-rich-quick industry, but if you're willing to put in the time, you're willing to work those 80, 100-hour weeks, that many of the people who built great businesses in the logistics industry have. You can build something, that you can become very wealthy. You can create generational wealth, sell your company, have lots of different opportunities, meet lots of different people. But yeah, it's something that people don't think about. I think if someone wants to work hard, I think it's an amazing industry to get into versus other sales jobs. Maybe you're selling something that people don't need. They maybe want it or it would be nice to have. Let's say like life insurance, we should all have it, but a lot of people don't. When you're selling freight, they need to move their freight. It's just, do they need to move it with Tom? Do they need to move it with Dylan? Or do they need to move it with Joe Bob down the street? And that's where you got to figure out what your unique selling proposition is, to your target audience. And that's ultimately how you're going to be successful in this industry, at least.
Hey there, amazing listeners. If you're enjoying what you're hearing on our podcast, we need your support. It will only take a moment, but it would mean the world to us. Please make sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share with one of your friends that would enjoy our content. Your engagement helps us reach more people and bring more awesome episodes to you. Thanks a million, and thanks for being part of the podcast community.
I love that. As a freight broker, because you've graduated. You started not at FreightQuote. Before FreightQuote, you were at I didn't catch it. You were working for...
My first experience in freight was at FreightQuote, which had gotten purchased by C.H. Robinson. Prior to that, I trained collegiate athletes. I did nutritional research at Kansas State University. So my first experience with freight was at FreightQuote by C.H. Robinson.
Okay. And then at GlobalTranz, you kind of transitioned into what sounds like more of a leadership position, where you opened an agency, or you were leading an agency.
Yeah, so when I came on to GlobalTranz, that was January 2020. And when I was at C.H. Robinson, I was a W-2 employee, a sales executive, did that whole thing. And then went over to GlobalTranz as an agent, and decided, hey, I'm going to take fate or destiny into my own hands. Started by myself, and then over 3.5 years grew that with, a staff of 25 people. So I've done everything in between. I'm not someone who's just a CEO or an owner who hasn't covered a truck, who hasn't put myself in those shoes. I believe it's massively important when you own a company or you want to be a leader that you don't ask your people to do things that you can't do or you haven't done yourself. So for me, if I ask one of my employees to cover trucks or to track and trace or to quote or do RFPs, I can sit there and I can still do it with them, and I still do it to this day. Because you need to be able to lead by example. I'll give you a great example. When I was a college athlete at the University of Kansas, we had a coach, Charlie Weiss, and most people don't show a lot of love for him at the University of Kansas, and I will tell you, I did not enjoy my experience with him, and I've been vocal about that prior. But with that being said, I feel like as a coach, he had never played football. Obviously, he had coached the great Tom Brady and all that stuff at the New England Patriots, but I think you get a very different perspective on someone when they are not a coach. When it's 125 degrees on the turf and it's August in training camp, do you actually know how the players are feeling? And you only know that if you've been a player, or at least if you've been an athlete. Maybe you were a different athlete and you can at least relate. And same thing when it comes to business, same thing when it comes to freight. And ultimately, when you and I start to dive more into this GlobalTranz and Worldwide, deal, is I think a lot of the problem there stemmed from the leadership had never actually done all the things. So when you were having conversations about why are you doing this or what's the benefit of this, if someone's never done that and they're just looking at it from a 30,000-foot view, they don't know the intricacies and why you're doing things. Versus when you have boots on the ground per se, you know exactly why you're doing what you're trying to do. So, massively important.
Absolutely. You're so right. That level of empathy can can only begin. That's why oftentimes truck drivers that transition into brokers just become great carrier sales reps,
Yes.
almost always. I don't know if there's an example of of that never working out. And
100%.
yeah. I love that. I love that. So leadership, GlobalTranz, building a team of 25. That's a whole nother game.
Yep.
That's no easy task. Um, and it sounds like you were able to train your team and they respected you because you had done the work previous. You understood what they're going through, sitting 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours in front of the freight board, making sure the freight gets
Yep.
moved, being able to speak to the carriers, knowing the objections, knowing the understanding. Any any uh,
100%.
any like tips, lessons that you've taken away from managing and uh, working with 25 people for other business owners like
Yeah.
that
No,
people
I
are.
think
Mhm.
the best thing is, that you have to be able, to have done, exactly what you're asking them to do, as we talked about before, but it's not easy. Anyone who owns a business will tell you managing people is one of the hardest things. And, I also have a business
The
partner,
hardest part of the
Natasha.
business. Everyone says that
100%.
business would be easy if not for people, right?
Well, yeah, and it's like, so many times you'll have someone who starts a business by themselves, as I did, and you get it to a certain point. I think you see this with a lot of freight brokers, a lot of these different agency models, et cetera, where you have to cradle to grave it, so you're doing everything. And they get stuck at like a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 book of business because, okay, you got 6, 8, 10 customers, but then you get stonewalled because you're having to do all of these operational things that is not making you money. And if you can delegate those tasks, which is much easier said than done, and I can tell you from experience, I should have, probably hired more people sooner, but either selfishly or you doubt people can do as good of a job as you can, or, are they going to screw something up? Am I going to risk my customer relationship? So for me, it took longer than it probably should have. I have a business partner, Natasha, who also works with me. And, that's where she really excelled at. She was great with people. She was great at being able to read people, in the hiring process. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to let people go, and so that's all part of it, and it's a big learning lesson. I mean, I think in life or in business, everything's a learning opportunity, and a failure is never a failure if you can learn a lesson from it. So maybe you make a bad hire. Maybe you hire someone and you don't train them properly and they do mess up. Maybe as a boss or an owner, as a leader, you act in an unfavorable way towards an employee and they leave because of the way you treated them. Well, now you learned I need to change myself to be more approachable, to be, a better leader. And I also need to be able to coach my people. And maybe the way I did it before, isn't working. For me having a sports background, I'm more of like a militaristic style of leader by nature. Well, that doesn't work with everyone. Some people thrive on that. You watch The Wolf of Wall Street, one of my favorite movies, and it's just a chaotic scene, and people slinging the phones and making money. But there's plenty of people who wouldn't, do well in that type of environment. So you got to really start to get behind the psychology of your people. And as I said, my business partner Natasha, that's where she really thrives. And be able to know, how does this person react? How are they going to best learn? Are they a visual learner? Do they need to see me do it? Et cetera. So I'll say, I don't think anybody, I don't care how many employees you have, I don't think anyone is an expert in hiring people, but you do get better over time. You start to see tendencies, and then you just stay away from those tendencies or you gravitate towards those tendencies.
So much gold dropped right there. I think it's so true what you mentioned about as people are customer reps, carrier reps, or growing a company. And you mentioned cradle to grave. You get 10 customers, and then you just get stuck. You can't grow more because you have trouble trusting others to do the job. You have trouble training people. You're like, I'm the best at this. No one else can do it as well as
Yes.
me. And so you get stuck sometimes doing $10 tasks instead of focusing on the $100, $1,000, $10,000 deals.
Yep.
Where at that level you should be focused on that. and be leveling up other people, coming them up. I recently read something about how CEOs, the best CEOs, focus 50% of their time on their people, on their direct reports, on their people. And so oftentimes the industry is so fast paced. Got to make money. Got to. You're sitting at that desk.
Yes.
You're just booking freight. No one slows down to be like, hey guys, let's logistics doesn't have an hour to just let's just go into a conference room and teach you guys how to book a load. Yet perhaps that is something that is not the worst investment of your time.
100%.
Love that. And it's awesome to hear that you have Natasha, who is out there helping you. And it seems like you guys both have superpowers that you're both aware of, and you guys are positioned in the right positions on the team that you've built.
I think it's very rare that you have, and there's a lot of egotistical people in the world, especially in business, that think I can do everything. I think you need to know what you're good at and what you're deficient at. I think if you look at most big businesses, whether it's CPG brands, which are many of our customers now, whatever, if it's a service-based company, logistics company, et cetera, you see very few companies that have like one owner or one leader, because most people are not good at everything. And if you're that person who says, I'm the best at everything, you're lying to yourself and you're probably extremely narcissistic. And so you got to say, okay, I'm good at the sales. I'm good at doing face-to-face. I'm very extroverted. I love going to meet people in person, taking them out to dinner, going to conferences. I know that's why I thrive the best. I don't thrive the best in doing all the numbers, the back end stuff. So if okay, I'm good over here, you need to find someone, whether it's a CFO or a COO or a chief, staff person, et cetera, that can help you with those other things. And maybe they become a part owner, maybe they're a business partner, maybe they're not, that's up to you to decide as a business owner. But yeah, having someone who can kind of, be your yin to your yang per se is what's really going to be able to help you scale, at a rapid rate. And that way you don't have any deficiencies in the business. But, as I said, with hiring people, that's also easier said than done. So if you can find that, hold on to that, treat those people well, whether that's your business partner, your C-level suite or your employees.
I love that, man. So much gold. Appreciate you digging into that. And
100%. We're just trying to be over here dropping nuggets, lots of gold nuggets for everyone to be successful at the end of the rainbow. Exactly.
That's what's up. That's what it's about. Cool, man. So as you've built this agency, got 25 people, has that led to where you're at today, or are there more? Obviously, there's more to it, but push me along the storyline.
Yeah, so like I said, we were with GlobalTranz till June 2nd, 2023 was the big day. And like I said, we were the number one agency at GlobalTranz. I'd grown it, from $0, had nothing when I started there, to a massive business making millions of dollars a year. It was a great business for us, great business at GlobalTranz. If you're not familiar with the agent model, because sometimes we need to, dumb it down per se, or not assume everyone knows. You have W-2 employees at a lot of, different companies, TQL, C.H. Robinson's, all great companies. I'm not the person to ever sit here and shit talk other people. That's not how I think you need to do business. So you have a lot of great companies, some of the largest in the world have W-2 employees. And then you have these agency programs, which market to you and bring you on that you are your own business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you can grow it as much as possible, and it's going to be a partnership together. The customers are your customers, and they're really there to help you. And with most of these agency models, there's a split per se. I had a 70-30 split. Others, everyone can negotiate their own deal. With GlobalTranz, you had inside agents and outside agents. So inside agents, they did the operations for you. They covered your trucks for you, etc. I was not an inside agent because coming there, I knew how to do all of that from my time and great training at C.H. Robinson. Thank you to them. And so I was an outside agent. So we did all of our own operations, et cetera. So I'm sure all the agency programs function similar, but maybe slightly different, but that's at least how GlobalTranz operated. So I was an outside agent. We grew the business. It was a great business. Obviously, they're making money. We're making money. Everyone's happy. And in July 2021, there was what they would try to call publicly a merger. Now, typically with a merger, you got to file things with the SEC. There's lots of public documents, especially when you have two of the largest companies in the logistics industry coming together, because, these type of companies are, third-party logistic companies, or online logistics platforms. So number one, the country is C.H. Robinson. Number two is TQL. Number three, right now, I believe is RXO because they acquired Coyote from T-Force. And then number four, right now, you have the WEX Group, and, there might be some fluctuations in there, et cetera. You have Echo Global and a few others. So in July 2021, they marketed it as a merger. Really, it was a levered buyout, if you're familiar with those. And typically, you do a levered buyout, which is not typically the best way to buy companies, but you use someone else's debt to buy the company. And typically, people do levered buyouts with a hope to IPO and offload that company in a few years and make a quick buck. So that's typically why you do an LBO if you start to do research on LBOs. But so they did this. Tom Medine, the CEO of Worldwide Express, marketed it as a merger publicly and said this was going to be great for everyone. A lot of the agents had a lot of questions about it, though. What does this mean for me? They have their livelihood, they have their business, their families, their employees depending on this. And you have who is a competitor, because Worldwide Express had Worldwide Express and Unishippers. They did small parcel, but they also did LTL and full truckload. Those were direct competitors in the industry. So as an agent, you have to ask yourself, well, what does this mean for me? Now they're going to potentially have access to all my data. I just competed against those people tomorrow. And how they told us that the three brands are going to be separated. And if you look at their legal entity structure, which you can find on FDD filings, and what FDD filings are is, Unishippers has a franchise model. And so every year, if you have franchise models, you have to do FDD filings, discloses the corporate structure, et cetera. So if you look at their corporate structures, still to this day, they separate themselves as three different companies: Unishippers, GlobalTranz, and Worldwide Express. And so they're still technically somewhat competitors in the market space, although they're under this same deal. So they came into the picture. First year, nothing really changed. A gentleman by the name of Rob Rose, who was the former president of Worldwide Express, came over. He kind of oversaw the GlobalTranz branch. I got an opportunity to meet Rob in person. He seemed like a great individual, a successful entrepreneur, hardworking American type of guy. I got along with him. Unfortunately, in October 2022, he tragically passed. And like I said, I really enjoyed Rob. He had a son who was playing college football at the time. So when him and I got some time to speak privately, we kind of bonded and connected over that. But unfortunately, he passed away. A gentleman named Joel Klum, who is the current COO of Worldwide Express, stepped onto the scene. And within a day, I'm hearing from Joel Klum. And he's kind of trying to act like the nice guy, come in, I'm here to help. And over the next few months, starting really in December of 2022, is when we really started noticing a lot of things that they were overstepping, overreaching, putting their hand in the cookie jar, per se.
What's that look like? Like, what's an example of overstepping, overreaching when this happens to your company? What's like a sign that, hey,
So the first big thing, and I had been bringing it up for years, is they wanted to have some of the top GlobalTranz agents start doing parcel shipping, which is like small packages, the Amazon box you get to your door. And so that's really where Worldwide Express and Unishippers makes a lot of their money, is they are a UPS reseller. And they hang their hat on that, and then they do freight, as well. But so they wanted, some GlobalTranz agents, and it was mutual. Some GlobalTranz agents also wanted to be able to sell small parcel, so they marketed it to us as this, beta test, or, a deal where, hey, we'll pick 5 people, we'll kind of do this test deal that we'll let you guys sign on to Unishippers franchises. When they did this, we started noticing that they were taking our customer list without prior authorization, scrubbing our customer list to see which one of those customers had good parcel business or did not. And obviously no one's naive or stupid. Maybe some people are. But of course, when they, did this LBO or this merger or this acquisition, I like to call it a combination. It makes the most sense. When they did this combination, I'm not stupid enough to think they already weren't looking in, side the books of, okay, what's the profit margins? Who are their customers? Things like that. But that was really kind of the first blatant act that we saw. And then over time, they started to take customers from us. We started to notice there was discrepancies in the LTL pricing. So on their TMS, what it was telling us the true carrier cost was versus what they were actually paying the carrier. There was a delta or there was a difference there. So we started bringing up all these things. And as you can probably tell, I'm a very energetic, I'm a very vocal person. Why I wasn't a very good W-2 employee. And so started bringing all these things up to them. And at the time, we're the number one agency. So I feel like, well, if I'm not bringing it up, who is? And this isn't just affecting me. This is affecting everybody. So if I see $100 issue or $1,000 issue, multiply that by 600, every single day. So we started really bringing these things up. And that's really when it started to become a problem. And ultimately, I think they were afraid at the time that I would expose light to this. And that's where, the issues really started to arise.
What would that have done for them if you had started exposing light on that at that time?
So the biggest issue is what they were doing is not legitimate business. It's unmoral, it's unethical, and to be honest, it's fraud. And the lawsuits that we have filed have fraud all over it. And so us bringing this to light, talking to other agents, now, if you have one person that identifies a problem, it's like, okay, well, they're a $5 billion company, and they made me very well aware of that they were a $5 billion company. But if you have one person exposing a problem, okay. If you have 100 people that come out with the same problem, now you have issues, especially if you're doing things fraudulently or illicitly making money, illegitimately. And that's where you start to see, class actions, et cetera, arise from. So, you have one person bitch or complain, okay, let's take care of that. That spawns to 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 100. Now you start having a big systematic problem, and so that's ultimately what I believe that they were afraid of. And I was very vocal, and I told them I was vocal. And, so I think that was their biggest fear with us, that we were going to expose to all the other agents what was happening, and gave them opportunities of, hey, do business the right way. Because at first I thought maybe they were just targeting me. Maybe they don't like me. I'm a very loud individual. I'm very brash. I'm very aggressive. I had grown the fastest agency ever there. So you would think that they're also making money off of that they would be proud, they would be able to assist you, they'd be there to help you, because you're essentially partners making money together. And that's
what business should be about, making money together, right?
ePay Manager, powered by OTR Solutions, is a back office automation and carrier payments platform that revolutionizes brokerage back offices with their proactive invoicing workflow, a centralized portal that gets you out of your email. Learn more about ePay by visiting epaymanager.com or text ePayFC to 80483 to see what they can do for your brokerage.
100%.
That's why business is awesome. That's why business
why the agent model is so, if you really start to take a deep dive at the agent model, which is what we're doing with our lawsuits, it's systematically, it's just kind of wrong, because in most principal agent relationships, they say that the principal has no fiduciary duty to the agent, but the agent has a fiduciary duty to the principal. Well, then you start to look at the definition of a partnership. A partnership is when you're trying to, make money together, but you share in the profits and the losses. So obviously we're sharing the profits. We have a split. Well, you're also sharing in the losses. In a true agent-principal relationship, the agent shouldn't be sharing in the losses. Okay, the easiest way to look at this is look at real estate agents. If you're a real estate agent for Keller Williams, you work for Keller Williams, they are your principal. You go sell houses, you make your 3 or 6% commission. The bank, in this instance, the bank would be GlobalTranz or Worldwide Express. The bank gives a loan to a person who wants to buy a loan or who wants to buy a house. They buy the house. You as the agent get your commissions. If someone defaults on the house in 2 months from now, the agent isn't responsible for that. They made their commissions. They provide their professional service to help get that house sold. The bank made a financial decision to give that person a loan based on their financial data. Now pull that over to these agency models. And the same thing is true. It should be true there. Is the GlobalTranz Worldwide is deciding to give customers credit lines, what their days to pay are, etc. But if the customer doesn't pay, now you're financially responsible for it. So it's not really an agent-principal relationship. It's a partnership because we're sharing in the profits, but we're sharing in the losses. But really, they make the agents responsible for all the losses. So in my opinion, and the court will have to decide, it's a very one-sided partnership, and it's one-sided heavy on the side of the agent. Because I'm sharing my profits, but I have to eat all the losses. But then you don't want to, propose it or market it as that. And that's why I think these agency programs, that maybe there's some good ones, but I think that there's a lot of systematic issues. And the reason that it has not been brought to light is because no one was willing to bring it to light. And I've talked about this before when we had a meeting with many of the C-level executives at Worldwide Express. Charlene York, who's their chief legal officer, threatened me and said, Dylan, we're a $5 billion company. We have more resources than you. And I asked her, I said, Charlene, what do you mean by that? And Joel Klum and other people were on the phone call. And she said, you know exactly what I mean by that. And so in the past interview that I did with the Two Dogs, One Pod, my attorney, Rocky Dunn, was on that. And he likes to call it death by legal fees. So that's why you don't see people go against multi-billion-dollar corporations, because they want to say, we have deeper pocketbooks than you. We will bleed you out. We will try to elongate this lawsuit. And unfortunately, they picked a person with me that they're not going to be able to do that for a variety of reasons. But that's ultimately why
they picked a berserker. They picked a warrior.
They did.
Oh man. So you are in this battle right now.
Correct. So we filed we got terminated June 2nd, 2023, without proper notice. I was actually in Europe at the time.
That means terminated. They closed your entire agency and your team, or they just kicked you out?
So my team was all my employees. They all worked for Freight Essentials, had nothing to do with GlobalTranz. They worked for me. I was the agency owner. So on June 2nd, they terminated us without cause. There was supposed to be a 10-day cure period, a 30-day period, all things, in the contract. But I was over in Europe. I was actually in Madrid, Spain, the day it happened, at the Natural History Museum with my 1-year-old daughter. I'll never forget it. And I get the termination notice, and they turn everything over.
That's why we're doing this. Learn from his story, people. Learn from his story.
Correct.
Although, Dylan, I think it's only fair if I also talk to them and get the other side after this.
Yes.
And
I don't know if they'll get on there and talk to you because when we filed our RICO lawsuit, this got picked up by about 400 news agencies: Yahoo News, Yahoo Finance, FreightCaviar, all the different people. And GlobalTranz didn't want to respond to any of them. And then they took 8 days to send an internal message to all their agents that I had a few kind people that I still talk to let me know they sent, saying that we had baseless claims and we were throwing dust in the air. And let me tell you, in my position, and of course I know people get on and say things, etc., but in my position, I'm the type of guy, I'm not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars on legal fees if I'm not correct. I'm not the type of person in a relationship just to argue or bitch or banter for no reason. If I'm coming in to argue, I'm coming in, I already got the cold hard evidence. And that's the beautiful thing about this case is through the first lawsuit. So we filed our first lawsuit September 2023. Like I said, when that happened, I thought maybe they were just targeting Dylan. They didn't like Dylan and Freight Essentials, which I don't know why you wouldn't like me. I'm a very likable guy. But maybe they didn't like me. So through all that, we got millions of pieces of documents through what you call ESI protocol. If you haven't been in a lawsuit, it's called ESI protocol. Just remember, people, any email you send, any text message you send, anything you do, especially if it's on a company domain, even if you delete it and delete it again, it will be found. And so I felt so confident. I have nothing to hide.
Can you say that again? Can you say that again just in case someone missed that?
So ESI protocol, if you get into a lawsuit, you need to know to expect that anything you've ever emailed, text messaged, put on Microsoft Teams chats, even if you deleted it, it is discoverable and it will be found. And there's companies who specialize in this.
Copy that.
So yeah,
Copy that.
most people who haven't been in a lawsuit,
heard.
Yes, most people who've been in a lawsuit don't think about these things. And so both parties have to agree on the search terms, which we did in our first lawsuit. And then we ended up over time getting 3 to 4 million documents that you then upload into a system. You can use AI. There's lots of different ways to do it. And then you can start going through those documents. Now, in our lawsuit, they have you have to come to a protective order. And most people probably don't know what a protective order is. I didn't know what it was either. So lots of things I've learned.
My berserker friend, you warrior, you just dropped so much right here, so fast, and it's a lot. I just want to make sure we can repackage it. I'm following.
Yep.
So you start this amazing agency. You grow it fast. You're aggressive. You've gotten Tasha, an amazing business partner. You hire a team of people. You're employing people. You're still based in Kansas. It sounds like you have a baby along this time. Life's kicking. Life's ripping. You're happy. Everyone's happy. Then Rob Rose, a leveraged buyout starts to happen. Rob Rose comes in. You're the top agency owner for GlobalTranz. You meet him. You have conversations with him. It sounds like you had dinner together. Seems like an amazing guy. And then he passes away. Rest in peace. Sounds like an amazing person. And then somebody named Joel Clone.
Yep, Joel Klum.
Joel Klum comes in to become the CEO of Worldwide. He was Worldwide Express's CEO and comes in and is now the CEO of Global.
So he was the COO of Worldwide Express, and the COO, they kind of put him in charge, per se, to oversee the GlobalTranz brand. But he was still on paper, technically, the COO of Worldwide Express, which could start to bring all sorts of questions of how does Worldwide Express executives have access to all the books of businesses of GlobalTranz agencies when you're still competing against each other? Lots of things we could get into there. But yeah, for your timeline's sake, that is correct.
Okay, so now you start to meet him, kind of like Rob Rose. You're like, these are the owners, like these are my partners. Like I'm their top agent. We're making money together, and so I want to know who I'm working with, who I'm splitting profits with. That's important to me, like it should be for anyone, that their livelihood is connected to that. And so you reach out and you start to get to know the new. Is it a whole new executive team?
So essentially after they did this levered buyout with GlobalTranz, they terminated or over time kind of abolished all of the GlobalTranz leadership.
The old leaders that founded the company.
GlobalTranz had been bought and sold so many times, so the founders were nowhere in sight. But basically the same private equity firms, and we could get into the semantics of all that, not to bore anybody, but they kept buying and selling, and then finally 2021 came in, and the Worldwide Express entity came in and did that.
Okay, got it. And so you start getting to know them, and you start seeing these yellow flags, these things that don't sit right on your stomach, and you're the type of guy that if something doesn't sound right, if it doesn't sit right, you're not going to sit there and pretend it's not happening. I see evil, I speak, and I shine light on that darkness or the tough topic. That's what made you so amazing. That's actually probably what let you scale to become the top agency at GlobalTranz, because you were willing to have the hard conversations. You were willing to shine light on the things that people are uncomfortable shining light on. And that's where the next level lies a lot of the time. People are scared to have those conversations.
Yeah, you need to be a problem solver. And so whatever that problem is, whether it's big or it's small, anyone can have the easy conversations. It's like when you're successful, in the easy times, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean shit. But when you have to have those hard conversations, whatever that conversation may be, that's where you are really going to see the winners from the losers, the people who are willing to have those conversations, who are willing to be truthful, open and honest, moral and ethical, versus the people who are not. And unfortunately, the people that came into play were not those type of people. They didn't want to have those conversations, or if they did, they would convolute the truth, or they would try to go into something else, or, hey, we'll look into this, or they would blame it on a technology issue instead of just addressing the issue.
Your bullshit radar started going off. Their words
Yes.
were not matching their actions, those types of things. And you're like, what
Correct.
the fuck? This is my entire life. This is my business. This is my future. I don't like that these people are not telling me the truth.
100%. And in my view, it's so easy. Like when you detect this bullshit, like you said, for someone just to come clean. But the issue is, if they would have come clean, that they had been doing these things since like 2018 and prior. And their whole goal, as Bloomberg Business came out in May of 2024, they released an article that JP Morgan got brought on to help WEX IPO. So their whole goal has been to IPO in 2025. That is like literally all of their life's missions. They all have private stock. I've talked to many of the people who still had it. They want to IPO in 2025. And if you don't know what IPO means, that you go public on Wall Street, on the New York Stock Exchange. And we've seen lots of companies.
Would that mean agency owners like you would make a lot of money if they succeed in their life mission of IPO?
No, and that's where I've had many agents reach out to me and ask the same thing, because let me give you the same analogy. When they came in and they acquired or LBO'd GlobalTranz, did any of the agents get any money off of that? No, but their sell value is based off of what the agents are bringing in on a yearly and monthly basis. But every time they sold or if they IPO'd, that does nothing positive for any of the agents. If they tried to go sell, let's say, GlobalTranz to C.H. Robinson tomorrow, C.H. Robinson isn't buying out all of the agents. So that's a huge, misconstrued or misconceived deal, that if they were to IPO, the only people benefiting from that IPO are people who have private stock. And those are going to be people making millions, tens of millions, potentially more dollars. And so when you start to look at why weren't they being honest with everyone about what they were doing, it's because they were trying to pump up their EBITDA or their profit numbers. So the more profitable you are, the higher multiple you will be able to IPO at. And Tom Medine, Joel Klum, Jack Perlstein, all these people who I'm now suing would make tens of millions of dollars illegitimately. And ultimately, they're trying to defraud the American public by doing those types of things. Because if you're pumping up your profit numbers illegitimately and you're asking Americans, hardworking entrepreneurs, to invest in your IPO offering, but the numbers you're putting out there are fake and fraudulent, ultimately, and there's been some articles written about this, you are defrauding American citizens. And that's why this issue is much bigger than just the logistics industry.
Now, hold your horses, Dylan. That's a big, bold claim. Can we double click on how pumping up, I'm sure they would say, hey, we're trying to improve our EBITDA. And that's the goal of any executive team.
Of course.
So how double click on that. How are we pumping it? How are we doing it?
Yeah, so that's what our retail.
If I could even peel that back a little bit, you mentioned that if like a C.H. Robinson bought GlobalTranz, they would not get any of the agents, which is like the whole business.
They would still own the business. The agents would not make any profit off of them selling the business, because when Worldwide Express came in and bought GlobalTranz, go ask any agent, did they get $1 from that transaction? The answer would be no. But they just had someone else who put their hand in the cookie jar, had access to all their data, etc. It was not a winning situation for the agents. But yeah, as you said, to peel back my statement I just made, and I'm very confident in making these statements because, as I said, and hopefully in a few weeks we have a court hearing, that all these things in the lawsuits that are currently redacted, and what redacted means is it's blacked out so you can't see the evidence if you go and look at it right now, due to that protective order we were talking about. There's all the evidence in the lawsuit. So that's why I'm very confident I'll publicly talk about it, because I have hundreds and hundreds of pieces of documents that they're just dead in the water. They're smoking guns. O.J. Simpson, the glove doesn't fit the glove. We got the glove. But what you said.
I'm gonna press you a little bit on that EBITDA. How like can you explain that how they're
Yes.
pumping that or
So
making
that really goes into our RICO lawsuit. So the way they were pumping up their EBITDA, number one was the LTL pricing. So LTL is less than truckload. If you're not familiar with that, you're working with FedEx, Estes, Old Dominion, etc.
Also, what's EBITDA for anyone that might not know?
EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, and appreciation. So that's how you value your business to sell.
Yeah, so that is, as soon as you start owning an agency, a business, that is like a very important number for you to know, because that's
correct.
Like how much money you have after your freight margins, after you move your truck, after all your costs, everything. That's the bottom line before taxes.
Most of people think of that of what you're profiting, your EBITDA. And so EBITDA is how you're going to go sell a business. Prior to getting into logistics, I had a finance background. With my MBA, I had a minor in business, so I'm very familiar with investments, with selling, all that kind of stuff. And in the logistics industry, or any business, you're going to see what's your EBITDA, and then companies will buy you on a multiple of that. But if you're trying
what is the logistics multiple? Because I know SaaS companies is very high.
Typically, it's 5 to 8.
5 to 8.
So 5 to 8 times EBITDA. That is not what Worldwide Express and GlobalTranz like to buy businesses, like my friends over at BLX or Volition, and we can get into that if we have time.
I almost think, Dylan, that might be like a nice little reel right here or clip if we even explained or went into the multiple of trucking companies. When you say so say your company's EBITDA earnings, and we do EBITDA on a 12-month basis, right? Or a monthly basis. We'll do a monthly basis and then a 5 to 8x.
Yep. So you do a monthly and then what you would do yearly. So what is your yearly EBITDA? So let's say your yearly EBITDA is $10 million. And so you want to go sell your business. You're ready to sell. You've built this great business. You're a hardworking American. So you're going to sell it to another person, maybe an Uber Freight, maybe another place. There's been a lot of mergers and acquisitions in the logistics industry, or what you hear of called M&As. So in an M&A, you're going to sell. So maybe, you have great back office operations. Everything's running smoothly. You have sales reps. It's a self-sustaining business, what everybody wants. So then let's say Uber Freight offers you 9 times EBITDA. So you're doing your EBITDA is 10 million, 9 times that you would sell for $90 million.
And so how are they calculating? Like why would they pay 9x EBITDA, and what's that mean? Does that mean your business is doing how much you said in this example, 10 million a year?
So in this example, let's say your EBITDA was 10 million, so your earnings before interest, taxes, and appreciation, $10 million for the year.
You're making that every year. So
correct.
Hey, but you can pretty much buy 9 years of your life by a 9x multiple. So if you're burnt out, I don't really want to do this. You have another idea. You would never get to that point not loving it. So pretty much, if you have another idea for how to make other money, other passions, etc.
It's
then
really
you're
what most
selling, right?
business owners' goal is to end up selling. And the reason someone might ask, why we're just using Uber Freight in this example. I have no beef or anything with them. But let's say Uber Freight was going to pay you 9 times EBITDA. Typically, the better your company is with the systems, the SOPs, getting new customers organically, etc., they know with their processes, with their leverage to capital, that they can take your business and grow it even faster. So someone simplistically might say, okay, they're buying 9 years of your business. That means it's going to take them 9 years to make it back. That seems stupid. But their whole thing is they can buy it. They can put their processes in place with your processes. They 10x your company in 3 years. Well, now they're making a lot of money back. So that's
now they're not making 10 million a year. Now they're making 100 million. And they did that in 3 years.
Yeah.
Ameripol offers a solution that helps reduce staffing costs by over 50% without sacrificing quality. Visit transport.ameripolstaffing.com to discover how Ameripol can help your business operate more efficiently.
It's why you see Mars and Hershey and some of these big companies, go buy food companies because maybe that food company is doing X, but maybe they have a lot of inefficiencies. They don't have all the technology on their manufacturing line, et cetera, et cetera. They go in with more capital. They put those things in place, and that candy brand that was doing $5 million in EBITDA a year, 2 years later is doing $25 million EBITDA a year, and they maybe only paid $45 million for it. So, that's kind of what the whole EBITDA thing is when it comes to selling your business. But to get back,
beautiful. Thank you.
A little lesson in finance. Welcome to the University of Dylan.
Phenomenal. Such a good teacher. So now tell us, how do you pump it up and defraud the U.S. government?
100%. So how they were pumping it up, like I said, is exactly where a RICO lawsuit gets into. So the first way they were doing it was with the LTL. So with LTL, you get onto their system, and per your contract, whatever the cost is, they split that with you. So you have the cost and you add $100 to it. You have your gross margin split. So you make 70, they make 30, and that's all based off of the cost. And the cost is supposed to be the cost. Well, February 2023, we start getting inclination because I had some customers saying, Dylan, your pricing seems to be going up. Have you changed anything? I said, no, I have not changed your profit margins. So I'm starting to think, what's going on here? And I'd heard inklings from other agents over time. So we start quoting shipments in the system, and then we call the carrier, say, hey, it's Sarah with Freight Essentials. Let me get a quote over the phone. And you give them the GlobalTranz account number. They give you a quote. The quote they give us is $200. The quote of the system is $300. This is a problem. So now we have a $100 discrepancy on what the cost is, the pure cost, nothing added to it yet. And so we're seeing $300 in the system. We call the carrier, they tell us the cost is $200. So I run 75 of these examples. I bring it up to Joel Klum. I said, this is a problem, Joel. And he tries to say, well, this is a tech issue. And so we keep going back and forth about this. So through our lawsuit, we have been able to get lots of documentations, like I said, millions of documents. And now we have evidence that what they were saying the cost was not the true cost. So if they were saying the cost was $200 in their system, and the cost the carrier billed them was actually $150, they made a $50 chunk immediately that they are not telling you about. Does that make sense?
Would it be kind of like how some dispatching companies have done, where they'll say, hey, to trucking companies, we tell you all our Raycons, we'll send you the Raycons. And so they'll tell a truck driver they booked a load from Chicago to Indianapolis for $1,000. And then they'll tell the driver, I actually booked it for $700 or $800, and they'll just pocket $200 and they'll edit the Raycon or something. Is that something similar?
Probably
for carrier people? Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing is what your contract says. So I know how dispatching works. I imagine the example you just explained, they're probably not being truthful. I imagine dispatchers work on a percentage, or they make so much per load they dispatch. So yeah, probably very similar that, they're not being truthful about what the actual cost is. They're pocketing that money into the table. So I said, I don't know what a dispatcher's contract looks like, but I imagine it's very similar. So
it's more so like dispatcher to owner op or company to owner op, where they'll tell the owner ops, hey, I've got this load for $800. But they booked it for $1,000, but they tell them that they're transparent. They could, they'll send it to the owner op for $800, and they'll just pocket that extra.
So probably very similar. So in this case, they were the cost in the system was showing $200 with FedEx Freight, but they actually paid when FedEx billed them $150. So there's a $50 difference they're immediately just pocketing. And then let's say you put $100 on that shipment, you thought the cost was $200. They got $30, you got $70. So you only thought they made $30 when in actuality they made $80. So maybe you don't think that sounds like a crazy thing. Well, when you're doing
you're not getting anything on all those loads. Continue.
Yes. Well, and then when you're doing $1 billion of LTL a year, and you've been doing this for 10 years, now you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's just straight to the bottom line. So, like I said, through the legal process, we were able to get many documents. The one thing, funny enough, like I said, our first lawsuit we filed in September 2023, the one thing they didn't want to continue to give us was the carrier invoices. So I said, I want all my carrier invoices for the LTL shipments. They refused. October 2023 or 2024, the judge in Texas court order, you have to give Dylan and Freight Essentials the invoices. They had till December 4th. They did not give us the invoices. Why do you think they didn't want to give us the invoices? Because it showed the evidence. So then, since they didn't want to comply, which then we will file sanctions against them, so they will be fined financially for not following the court order, which judges do not like that. The judge in this instance is Judge Fraser. She's an amazing judge in Texas. We subpoenaed all the LTL carriers. So I sent out individual subpoenas to all the LTL carriers saying we were supposed to get this from Worldwide Express. We did not get it. I am now asking you for it. And most of those carriers have complied because they don't want to have a problem. They have no fight in this battle. And so they gave us the carrier invoices, and exactly what I thought was happening was happening. So we have all of the evidence. Like I said, I have stuff to show. If you go and you look, let's say 2018 to 2024, and we're talking $30, $40 million a year of illegitimate money they were making off of that split they were not telling you about. Just that one problem is hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay, so that means you're pumping up your EBITDA numbers that we just talked about, hundreds of millions of dollars. So that was problem number one. Problem number two was insurance. And I had a lot of
real quick.
Yep.
Before you go into problem number two, pretty much that means is they, without notifying the agents and all the agreements they have with agents, they kind of are like, hey, we're kind of changing the model. We're going to increase prices on all your customers, all the agents' customers. We're increasing prices on you guys without telling you guys, and we're taking that money. We're no longer honoring our 70-30 agreement.
Correct. It would have been one thing if they would have come to us and said, guys, the economy's not.
We need to increase it. Yeah.
We need to increase it. There's a 10% service fee or whatever. I guarantee you most people would have bitched about it, but it would have been, well, do I want to pick up my whole business over this? Probably not. And would the rate still probably be somewhat competitive? Probably. But the problem here is they did not do that. So that whole thing that we talked about, being truthful with your partners and transparent and moral and ethical, out the window. So yeah, you're exactly spot on. So that was problem number one. Problem number two, and when I was there, I had some agents who were, when we go to conferences and stuff, they had brought it up to me. And so I thought the same thing was happening because, well, I knew it was happening with the LTL. So you have to start to suspect that it's happening everywhere else. So problem number two is the insurance. So they would allow us to sell third-party insurance through a company called Falvey, Falvey, good old Falvey. So we can sell insurance. So they were telling us that, I'm just using an example here, they were telling us that the cost to Falvey for the minimum insurance was $35. So I always market that to customers. I don't need to make money on insurance. I'm not an insurance broker. If I wanted to do that, I'd go sell insurance. So they marketed us, hey, this is what our cost is. So then we would tell the customers, hey, if you want $16,000 of coverage, the minimum is $35. Well, in reality, GlobalTranz was paying $10. So they're making $25 in every insurance premium that's sold without telling us. And that was just for the minimum insurance. And then the insurance would increment up by $100 segments. So if you wanted $16,000, $100, every $100, they would say it was, for example, 30 cents for every extra $100. When in reality, they're paying 15 cents. So, like I said, these numbers seem really small and stupid and not important. Well, think about $100,000.
Not in this game. Not in the logistics game. Yeah.
In a $100,000 policy on one load, that's $150, $200 made off of one load. When that's happening tens of thousands of times, we're now talking about big money. So that's how they were doing the insurance. There's a piece I can't get into legally. Hopefully that will come out soon in February, that they were also doing with the insurance that you would probably be even more appalled about. But we can't speak about that right now. Hopefully soon. I'll let you know when we can. So that was number two. Number three, they were stealing customers from agents. And part of my lawsuit, both of my lawsuits, I had two. Our largest customer was a customer called Redcon One. They market themselves as the fastest growing supplement company in America. And so they were our largest customer, and they stole them from us. They tried to say that we were overcharging the customer, which we were not, and we can get into all the details of that. And so they gave this customer in excess of $1.5 million credit. Okay, so we gave them a 7-figure credit and then got them into a 3-year exclusivity deal, not with GlobalTranz, but with Worldwide Express. And I have all the internal emails, I have text messages, I got all of it. I got all things that we've learned in the lawsuit. I can't legally get into all of it, but you get the gist. Funny enough, last week, as we mentioned before, Redcon 1, my customer, so they got into bed with Worldwide Express, made this deal. It was good for Worldwide Express. It was good for Redcon 1, not good for me. And so when we filed this RICO and racketeering lawsuit in December 2024, Redcon 1 and their former CFO got implicated and sued in the RICO lawsuit along with Worldwide Express, along with all of them. Well, obviously, they probably weren't too pleased about that, but don't get into bed or don't get into business with people illegitimately and not expect bad things to happen. So now Redcon 1 is suing Worldwide Express. That came out last week. Very interesting turn of events. So that happened. They stole our largest customer. I had a 10-year exclusivity deal with our second largest customer. And that customer had brought that to me. He wanted to work with us because I work with lots of CPG brands, lots of supplement companies. So that customer was Dominic Iocavone. He owns Raw, Revive, Bum Energy, Vaughn's Treats. We have a 10-year deal with them. They go to that customer and tell them the day after our termination to stop working with Freight Essentials. For no legal reason, with no legal premise, that customer listens to them and they stop working with us with no legalese for why they're doing it. We're also suing that customer in the RICO lawsuit, and we're also suing him personally in Florida for breach of his 10-year commitment to us, which he has not been able to still show to this day any legal premise for why he did what he did. And in that lawsuit, there is no protective order, so I can legally share that stuff. I have emails from the owner, Dominic Iocavone, saying the only reason he stopped working with Freight Essentials was because Worldwide Express told him to. No legal premise. So they created a conflict with this customer, who this customer, just so you know, was on the Inc. 5000, which the Inc. 5000 comes out every year, the 5,000 fastest growing privately held companies in America. His company is number 7. So massive customer, great customer. Interfered with that customer. They gave him in excess of $100,000 credit in order to bribe him or persuade him to do this deal. So they did those two things. Yep.
Okay. So I think there's a lesson here a little bit for just like everybody with Dominic. So Dominic sounds like an amazing guy. He Inc. 1000 built an empire, like kingdom, like phenomenal dude. And now he's doing business with Freight Essentials with Dylan. You guys, sounds like, how long have you guys been doing business before?
So we had known each other for a while, and then in 2023 he had approached me because their business was growing rapidly, saying, hey, the person we're using doesn't know how to do all the things. We're getting ready to go into Sam's Club, Costco, etc. We've heard you're the guy. I want to get into a 10-year contract with you so I don't have to think about the freight anymore. I said, hey, man, that's great. We negotiated the contract, got into the contract. So that's how we came to be with that relationship.
Okay, so you made that entire deal happen, and then your executive team at GlobalTranz, which is now owned by Worldwide Express, or are they still separate companies?
They go to market separately still, but from an ownership perspective, they'll tell you that they're all one happy family. But
okay, so pretty much Dominic is like, yo, the owners of GlobalTranz / Worldwide Express, they come in and they're like, you're the top agent and all, but stop working with the top agent. Stop working with even the entire GlobalTranz business that they're trying to pump up that EBITDA, and come into the Worldwide Express business.
So they did the same thing with him.
They told him
the same
that
thing with our customer.
you don't really know how or those conversations. And I'm kind of curious, and I think the lesson here is like, okay, so you do business with somebody, you give him your word, you shake hands, you guys make a 10-year deal. Great. And then somebody else comes along and tells you, yo, stop doing business with that person. And I'm curious, like, if any, like I want my reputation to be so amazing, so sleeky clean that nobody would ever say anything like that to. I want people to only say great things about me and only do business with
100%.
Tom. However, if you find yourself in a situation like this, sometimes, you find yourself, especially if you've got enemies, right? It sounds like you've got enemies now,
Yep.
and so your enemies are going to talk bad about you. And I'm sure, as we keep on coming up, and people like in the YouTube comments of all our channels, people just hate for hating, So I guess everyone's going to have enemies,
Yeah.
right? And so just because somebody comes and tells you don't do business with somebody that you like, respect, and trust,
Yes.
who's done a good job for you, just because of that one thing, you kind of end that friendship, that relationship. Is that the right thing to do?
Well, especially when you have a so in that instance, we had a contractual on paper legal contract. So I mean, you have like two different scenarios here. One where if you didn't have a contract and you're just working on a transactional basis, but you have good business, and then two, when you actually have a contractual relationship that you are bound to legally, unless you have a legal premise to exit that contract. And as you mentioned, and as FreightCaviar gets bigger, as any business gets bigger, the whole thing of people should be happy for you and people should want to see you succeed. It's just not true in life. I always like to say that you're never going to see someone
new devils, right?
Yes. Well, then you're never going to see someone more successful than you most times, not always. Typically want to see your demise or to bring you down. And that's what was so, crazy or interesting in this case is you have a multi-billion-dollar company who was very intimidated by me. So if we're a $30, $40 million company and they're a $1 billion company, why are you so intimidated by me? It's because I'm willing to expose the truth. It wasn't over the $30 or $40 million of business that we were bringing you every year. It was the potential for the truth to be exposed. Instead of them doing the right thing, changing the way they're doing business or having purchased us and we could have gone our separate ways, they decided not to. And now, funny enough, the truth's coming out. But yeah, so those two things happened with those two customers being stolen. And then the day we got terminated, they sent an email which was premeditated and planned. And again, I have all of the evidence for the days leading up to this of top level executives telling them what to say and literally sales reps asking, can we say X, Y, and Z, which I can't legally say right now. And they sent emails to our customers saying they had acquired and purchased Freight Essentials. Acquired and purchased us. So I had lots of customers who'd worked with us for years. They're forwarding me emails while I'm in Madrid, Spain. Dylan, is this true? Did you sell the business and not tell us about it? Like, that seems kind of weird. I'm getting phone call. No, I did not do this. I tell them the story. And those customers are like, what the fuck? So you literally have a company publicly going out and saying they acquired and purchased me. And I've said it multiple times. They should have just acquired and purchased me. If you didn't like me for whatever reason, but you liked the business I had built, give me the fair market value for it. I would have gladly turned over the business to you, and we could have all gone our happy separate ways. But they didn't want to do that because they were selfish. They thought they were a $5 billion company. And, Dylan and Natasha are in their late 20s, early 30s. They're probably naive. They're blowing their money, X, Y, and Z. And they felt comfortable and confident that they could do this to someone who built the business from, ground up. So that's ultimately, what happened with that. As I've had other agents, I've had over 100 agents reach out to me after filing these lawsuits and saying the same exact thing happened to them. When we got all of the evidence, we saw the same exact thing happening where accounts were being stolen. They were sending lists to Worldwide Express employees to go prospect GlobalTranz customers. So this wasn't just a me thing. This was a systematic thing. So that was number 3. So 1, we got LTL pricing. 2, we got insurance. 3, we have stealing of customers to bring them over to the Worldwide Express brand. And number 4, which is a hot topic among agencies. And I know I'm stirring ruckus in the agency world because I've had Priority One reach out to me. I've had Armstrong reach out to me. For one, saying thank you for bringing light to the industry. But then 2, this is a landmark lawsuit. Because if this goes to trial, this will change the agent model forever. Is the agent model really a partnership model? Is it not this principal agent? How do they handle bad debt? So as we kind of talked about with that real estate example prior, here's a minute snippet so I don't confuse anyone too much on the bad debt fund, and everyone does their bad debt fund differently. GlobalTranz Worldwide, they are the creditor. They are the bank, per se, in this example. They approve the customer's credit line, okay? So that's pretty simple. So customer A wants to work with Dylan. Dylan submits a request through GlobalTranz. Okay, we'll approve him for $50,000, net $30,000. Sounds good. Customer books freight. We're splitting the margin 70-30, but they were lying about that. But 70-30, we're splitting the margin in a nice, realistic world. And they pay you your split once you invoice the customer. That makes sense so far, Tom?
Yes, pretty much global/worldwide. They are the bank, they are the creditor. And one thing that they have honored always is the agent to their split. Agents usually get 70. They get 30. GlobalTranz gets 30.
Perfect. So they pay you your commissions in that example twice a month. They pay you once it's invoiced. If the customer did not pay their invoice at 120 days, they would pull that commission back from you. Okay. So on every load that you booked, they would hold 1% of net revenue in a fund till the end of the year. That was your bad debt fund. So the end of the year comes around. Let's say you do $20 million of business in revenue. They got $200,000 sitting in this bad debt fund. So they've already taken your commission from you, but obviously there was a cost they had to pay the carrier. That would be the carrier cost. So we'll give you an example. $2,000 truckload. We pay the driver $1,900, $100 of profit. They already took back my commission. There was this $1,900 up for play at the end of the year. They would make the agent pay that $1,900 out of your bad debt fund. So you were the creditor. You decided to give the customer a credit line, but now I'm responsible for the bad debt. Okay. So then I pay for the bad debt. So I have paid for the load. The customer still is not paid. GlobalTranz then would not close out the invoice in the system or Worldwide Express. They would not close it out. They would keep it open. And you may ask, why would they keep it open? So from having a finance background, if you have open accounts receivable, you can do one of two things with that. You can either show that as incoming profits so you can pump up your numbers, or you can write it off and you can show it as a loss to bring down your numbers. You can do it either way with your business. So they would leave it open, and then they would sell it to third-party collections companies. So Dylan Admeyer, Freight Essentials, has paid for the invoice. The invoice is still open. You sell it to third-party collections. GlobalTranz was the creditor. They were the one who said the customer could have credit. They did the background check, etc. They will not write the debt over to the agent. So I paid for it. I asked them, guys, write me over the debt. I paid for the fucking invoice. Write it over to me so I can either go sue the customer or I can write it off as bad debt for my company. They say, no, that's not how we do business. I said, that is not legal. And they said, well, we brought this up in legal discussions with Charlene York and their C-level executives. I said, how do you think this is actually legal? They said, well, this is how all the other agency models do it, Dylan. I said, that still is not a legal premise. There's no legalese there. I said, let me give you an example, guys. If we all decided to go sell crack cocaine on the corner and none of us get caught, we're all going to feel like it's legal to sell crack cocaine because all 10 of us are doing it. Until someone gets caught, and now it's no longer legal to sell crack cocaine. It's the same example, just an extreme example. And so another thing you can look at in the logistics industry is if you have your own MC number, which most companies, most big people do over time. They don't want to be a part of this agency mess. If you have an MC number, you can go get a factoring company, which I'm sure you're familiar with factoring companies. And so in the factoring company, they will buy your accounts receivable from you and pay you immediately for a fee. If that customer doesn't pay the factoring company, that factoring company doesn't say they own your customer. Worldwide Express and GlobalTranz also go one step further and say it's not your customer. It's not Freight Essentials' customer. It's our customer because we handle the accounts receivable. That is their only excuse for trying to say that it's not your customer, it's their customer. So go to that factoring example. The factoring company would never in God's green earth say it's their customer. And if the customer doesn't pay, you have to pay them because they advanced you money. But now they give you a letter of release and they sign it over to you. So now Freight Essentials owns the debt. So GlobalTranz and Worldwide is essentially a glorified factoring company with a TMS system. And if people actually watch this and they think about it, they're going to say, this is so fucked with a capital F. This is straight fraud. And it is. And so that's why we have these lawsuits. And that's what the RICO lawsuit's about. It's about the LTL. It's about the insurance. It's about stealing of the customers. And it's about the bad debt fund. And you can ride into the sunset and say, this is how every other agent. But when we get in front of a judge and a jury of 12 normal Americans in Dallas, Texas, They're not going to think that because everyone was selling drugs on the corner, that fentanyl and crack cocaine would be legal because no one got caught for it. None of the agencies have been caught for it. And that's why I'm here today, and for however long I have to do this. I'm the only one who has stood up to this in the entire industry because everyone was so afraid of, well, if I speak out, because I've spoke to agents over the last month who've reached out to me who want to join the lawsuit, and we have several who are going to join the lawsuit. But they're like, well, if I join the lawsuit, they're going to terminate me. My whole livelihood's connected to this. I don't disagree with them, but you are perpetuating the problem. When something happens and no one speaks about it, you're just perpetuating the problem. So it keeps happening to more people. So that's, that last bad debt fund, I hope I went slow enough so it makes, I tried to lay it out pretty easily. And it's a big problem because I know for a fact that other companies do the same thing. Now, there are some agencies who've reached out to me and said, hey, Dylan, we don't have a bad debt fund, or they take out an insurance policy on the accounts receivable so they don't have the agents responsible. That's the right way to do business. But there are companies, other very large ones. I won't be an asshole and say their names because I know who has bad debt funds. I know who doesn't. But that's how a lot of these companies view the bad debt. And the agent just takes it because they try to rationalize it in their mind. It's like someone who's in an abusive relationship. You just try to rationalize this in your mind of why you're staying in this shitty relationship, when in reality you should, stand up, be an adult, and leave that relationship, whether that's an intimate relationship, a business relationship, whatever it is. You see it happen all the time. A man or a woman stay in a relationship for 4 or 5 years, getting abused, whether it be physically or verbally or emotionally, but they try to rationalize why they stay there. And that's what these agents are doing, because I've talked to most of them. They have some sort of rationalization of why it's acceptable that illegal things are being done to them. And fortunate for them that I decided to pony up the money and go after them.
AI workers allow you to train once, scale without limits, and leverage every single data point. Happy Robot is automated communication built for the supply chain. To learn more, go to happyrobot.ai.
Man, I think you explained point number 4 really well for anyone that didn't catch the real details of the logistics with the crack cocaine example. I think that catches it. And 100% on the, I think it's Stockholm syndrome type situation. Like you find yourself in a really bad relationship situation and you just kind of deal with it because you're kind of scared of change, of comfortable with just like,
change is hard, man. In any business, the hardest thing for my business, for the logistics business, is when you're prospecting new customers. I can literally guarantee to show a customer cost savings. I'll put it in front of their face. Well, we've been working with this other person for 3 or 4 years. Well, they've been overcharging you by 20%. Or they haven't been doing this SOP, and it's why your truckloads are getting double brokered and stolen. And, it's hard for them because people like comfort. They like to feel comfortable. It's no different. I love fitness. I own a gym. It's so hard for so many people. So many people know they need to get in the gym. They know they need to eat healthy. They know they need to lift weights. They need to put down the drugs, the alcohol, the cigarettes. But it's comfortable not to. The friend group they have may disown them if they change their way of life. And so you take that analogy and you put it into this agent model, and it's the same exact thing. If you change everything, what's going to happen? And ultimately, you as a person, you as a human being, you as an entrepreneur, you need to be so confident in your skill set that you've developed and acquired over time that this isn't the only place I can do this. And worst case scenario, I have to fucking start over, and that's what it came down to. Obviously, they did it to us versus us choosing to do it. But I had to go start over. And after that, I worked harder than I've ever worked in my life in any endeavor I did. 100-hour weeks, going to conferences, sending tens of thousands of emails, prospecting more than you've probably ever seen humanly possible to grow a $20 million business in less than 11 months. Because I decided to get into a legal battle, and the death by legal fees wasn't happening to me. And so getting into these things is very expensive. You can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a monthly basis. And that's not to scare someone. That's just you decide, and obviously we're taking it to a grand scale, but you better be ready to go. Because there have been many people in the past, and you can look up on Pacer, the open court docs. There's been other people who've tried to sue GlobalTranz and Worldwide, True Freight, etc. And stuff fizzled out over time because they would file motions to dismiss, or they'd run out of fees, or their attorney would get, dismissed off the case, or whatever the case may be. So that's why these things keep perpetually happening. And you need people to stand up. You see this in government, you see it in whatever. You have to be able to stand up and to be able to change something. And if that means you might be the billy goat, well, then fuck it, be the billy goat, because otherwise it's just going to keep happening. Until someone says enough is enough and they shed light. And that could be in any situation in life. It doesn't have to be logistics. It doesn't have to be the agent model. But that's obviously what we're here to talk about today.
Fascinating stuff, man. So you touched on it. I'm trying to figure out like a best case scenario that doesn't hurt so many families.
Yep.
However, because so many people, what you're saying, what you're fighting for here will shake the industry. It'll take the agent model, and if you're victorious, if people stand up and show courage and show that, hey, this is not an agent model, this is actually a partnership model, and these are the things that are happening, these bad debt funds, et cetera, these things, if you gain ground, if you gain traction, because you're a warrior, I feel like you're catching ground. That means that's going to shake every other agency out there. What's the best case scenario for if you still had Freight Essentials and you were not the first top agent who met this, but you were still in there in the third, fourth best agency? What's best case outcome scenario for somebody like that?
If someone's still there, and I don't want to say anything that would get me in trouble, and I've had, like I said, I've had over 100 agents.
Yeah, and for other companies that have agency models, right?
So whether you're at GlobalTranz or you're at Priority One or Armstrong or wherever you're at, like I said, there's good eggs and bad eggs, and everybody has their positives and negatives, which you have to weigh out as an individual, as an entrepreneur. But I've had over 100 agents from GlobalTranz reach out to me personally, and I've had other agents from other agencies reach out to me saying, hey, the same thing's happening at this different model. Is you need to really look at who you're doing business with. Who are you trusting with your customer data? Because newsflash to all these agency programs, the agents have the customers. Really, the agent is a customer of the person of the agency. If you didn't have the agent working hard, you would be making no money. But they forget that the agents are really their customers. GlobalTranz agents should be treated as a customer, just like I treat our customers like gold. They pay our bills. They keep the lights on. They allow me to live the life I have and have our employees. So the people who own the agencies should truly think about, maybe I should start to treat my agents like our customers, because that's how we're making money, and not saying, okay, how can we screw the agents every step of the way to make illegitimate money? And then if the agent wants to leave, we try to say, oh, no, they're our customers. They're not your customers. But to this day, on most of these agency websites, it says it's your business. You can grow it. It's unlimited. It's your customers, et cetera. And at least have a better argument. Like I said, the chief legal staff at Worldwide, if that's the best argument they can muster up, then, I'm ready for court. But you need to ask yourself, who am I doing business with? Do I trust these people with my customer list? Do I trust these people with my livelihood? If you have a family, like I said, I have a daughter at home. Do I trust these people who are going to do the right things for me so I can provide and take care of my 3-year-old daughter now, of my parents, of my future children? So that's what you really have to start to analyze. And if the answer is no, I'm not in a good place, then you need to get out. And of course, you need to look at your contracts. Go consult. I'm not an attorney. I'm just saying what I would do. Go consult with an attorney and see, okay, what does my contract say? Has there been breaches? What can I do here? Am I going to have to start over, et cetera? And a lot of people get scared of non-competes and non-solicits, and depending how it's written, you got to go through that with an attorney. But a lot of times it's overbroad, it's generic. They're not going to hold up in court, et cetera. But if I'm an agent today, I'm looking at that of, is there a better opportunity somewhere else? Can I go get my MC number? Because when you're in these agency programs, they make it so hard, that they make it seem impossible, that it's impossible to get your MC number. It's really not. And I'm not saying it's easy. It is no cakewalk. Do not get me wrong there. But it can be done. There's places where you can use this transition periods where you get your own MC. There's agent models. Now that you've listened to this podcast, hopefully, and the other podcasts I've been on, you can now go to a new agency partner and say, are you doing these things? Will you show me the carrier invoices? If I ask for the Saya Freight LTL invoice, are you going to show it to me right here? Hey, here's the cost we're paying. Here's the cost we're charging you. Are you transparent? Do you do opt-in or do you do opt-out? How do you handle insurance? Can I see the insurance invoices? How do you handle my customers? Are they my customers? Are you willing to sign a two-way NDA? Are you willing to sign a non-back solicitation agreement? Do you have inside sales reps? That should be an important question. Because if they have inside sales reps, as GlobalTranz and Worldwide do, are you going to try to sell against my customer because you know my profit margin? How do you handle bad debt? Those are all things as an agency owner, if you're looking to stay in the agency model, which is your choice. If it was me, I would not. Go get your MC. But those are the questions you should be asking if you want to stay in an agency program. And if they can't look you in the eye and tell you all those things openly, honestly, transparently, if they won't put it in a contract, you need to run. Just go the other way because you know that fuckery is about to transpire in the years to come.
Do you think an agency like that exists in 2025, January 21st, 2025?
I don't know of one that exists, but maybe they do. I've had people joke with me, like, maybe you should start the next, agency program, and maybe I should, because
if nothing could hurt you, if you could do anything and you could solve that, do that, how would you treat, if you had an agency, how would you treat your customers / agents like gold? What are the things, all those things you just mentioned, all those questions you just mentioned?
Yep.
Yes, you'd say yes to all of those.
Yes.
No problem. Anything else you would be doing for your agents that would be cool and fun? The
biggest thing is you need to be fully transparent. Transparency in anything is the biggest key. I don't care if it's your personal relationship at home, whatever it is with your husband, your wife, your kids, etc. If there's something you don't like, be transparent. Whether it's you like, you don't like, transparency will win all. Being moral and ethical. Would I want this to happen to me? I think you need to ask yourself those questions. But what I would do, like I said, full transparency. If someone asked me those questions, yes to all of them. I also think that a lot of these agencies, because most of them just work from home, or they have offices, satellite offices, etc., bringing agents together, doing things that are fun, that are still, like that competition, and a lot of these places try to do a lot of gimmicky bullshit, to be honest, but there would be ways that could be done much better, investing money, so many people they will make money quick, and they also do that with customers. They're trying to rip customers with big rips, etc. But, if you can really be people-centric and you actually are willing to be transparent and not try to make money in any illegitimate ways, and I'll be honest, an agency model, if you made no money illegitimately, is not the most profitable business. There's plenty of profit to be had, but it's going to be a lower margin business. It's not going to be a 35% profit margin business owning an agency. But if you want to do it, you do it the right way. There's still enough money to be made there. So that's how I would do it. And like I said, I think transparency and being open and honest with people, having open, honest contracts, not if someone asks to redline a contract, actually thinking about it, having that conversation, not just know this is how we do it. And then you ask them why, and they give you a bullshit excuse. Give them the legalese, give them the case law, give them the reason the contract is the way it is. So that way someone can feel good about a contract and they're not going to feel bamboozled or pressured, into signing something just because, they fear that their whole livelihood's at stake, So that's how I would do things. Do I know if one exists? I don't know one that answers all those questions. And so that's why, I think that would be a great reel to put on Instagram, those 5 questions or whatever. But, those are the things you should really be asking when you go search for a partner.
Clip that, Andrew. 100% Dylan. I mean, transparency, just say the fucking truth. It's so damn easy.
Yes.
Just life's so much simpler that way. You can sleep easy. Just do the right thing.
Yeah.
And especially in the logistics industry, I mean, it's the Wild West out here. And you are trailblazing something that could definitely change, bring freaking truth and shine light on those dark crevices. Open, honest contracts, explain, teach why the contract is the way it is. And maybe someone that hears this out there, probably Dylan, is going to be offering something sometime soon. I mean, speaking of, so what is your, like, I'm sure you want peace of mind. You want to win this war
Yep.
that's been brought to your doorstep, and after that, once you win, like, how, like, is there even a way that you can settle with them without going all the way, like?
Yeah, so kind of to end on that topic, or of course we can go into anything else. So when we filed the RICO lawsuit, I decided to go public with that. When we filed our first lawsuit, September 2023, I did not, because I wanted to wait strategically, and the attorneys, agreed. So, we hired a PR company this next time around because, as I said, I knew this needed to be out in the public domain, and we will continue to do so. And so the day we did that, they called our attorneys, and they were interested in a settlement. And asked us, what we wanted, of course. They came to us. I did not come to them. And so, my whole thing is I should have been able to sell my business. As any successful business owner, we should have been able to sell our business for fair market value. You took that away from me, from my family, from my employees, etc. So, when they wanted to settle, okay, you should have bought my business. Here's the amount of money it was worth. That's the deal. They offered a decent amount of money, but not anywhere close to that. So I respectfully declined. And I'm sure they will try again over time. Like I said, we have a big court date in February that hopefully we'll be able to get all of the documents unredacted so we can share every piece of evidence publicly. I don't think they're going to like that. They're fighting like hell. They're trying to seal it. In the U.S. court system, it's the open court system, open dockets. Because if I file a lawsuit, Tom or anybody else should be able to see the lawsuit. They should be able to see all the evidence, and so you can make the decision for yourself, and now you can make an educated decision. Well, why would someone want to seal the evidence? Legally, we had to black it out when we filed it. I did not choose. I would not want to do that, but due to the protective order, we had to. So you ask yourself, if they weren't guilty, which they're trying to say that my claims are baseless and it's dust in the air, which offends me. But if it was baseless and dust in the air, why are you trying to seal it? Why are you trying to hide it? If you had nothing to hide, if you did nothing wrong, why are you trying to hide it? There would be no reason to. That's the answer. So hopefully in February we'll be able to come out with that. We'll be able to share that. I'm sure they will probably come to us again. Because as I said, this is not a small issue. As you said, it's a landmark lawsuit. It will change the landscape of everyone, and they will be the one that is made the example of. So ultimately, our first court date September 2025, and then there will be our first time going to court for the state court case in Texas, and then the RICO lawsuit, etc. So if for their purpose, the smartest thing to do would probably be to settle. And realize, okay, it's going to be a chunk of money now, but we can save the business forever. And my hope would be that it's a learning experience for both them and for everyone else to then change the model to then do it the correct way. Because you could just pay someone off to shut them up and, stop the lawsuit, and you could continue to still do bad things to people, which that would be not very smart. The best world, I think, for them would be, okay, you do what's right. You did what you should have done to begin with. You get that settled, and then you go fix the business. Because now the business is out there, it's exposed, so everyone knows what you're doing. So you're not going to be able to continue to perpetuate the issue.
They should hire you to take over as CEO, change up, implement all those things, and just be open and transparent and honest and make life better for all the agents.
I don't disagree with you, Tom. I was talking with Natasha one day and some other people, and people joked about it. Now, under God's green earth, would they want to do that? Because they probably hate my guts. But ultimately, would it probably be the best business decision? Probably. And that's not being me being egotistical. Through this whole process, I have dropped any ego I ever had. And I just want to work hard. I want to make money. I want to grow companies, help people, bring light to things. Because when you start making a lot of money and you're young, you start getting a little bit of an ego and you think you're the shit. And, anything that I had is like out the window. I threw it off the top floor. So at this point, I've made money, I've been successful, I've traveled, I've bought the things. Now it's about doing the right thing. And there's a right way to do business and a wrong way to do business. And yeah, if they called me up and they wanted to settle and it was for the amount of money that it should be, sure. And if they wanted to bring me on board as a consultant or someone, at the end of the day, I get people make mistakes. The best way to get over a mistake is no different in a relationship. I love analogies. When someone cheats in a relationship, it breaks the trust. But that doesn't mean a relationship may be over forever. Now, maybe you personally, with your morals and ethicals, you decide to go your separate ways, you get a divorce, whatever the case may be, and that's up to each person's decision. There's other people who continue to have a very happy marriage after that. They have to rebuild that trust. They have to go in and do things differently. So if they corrected the wrongs and they called me tomorrow and said, hey, what we did was wrong. You were truly trying to bring light, because I wasn't trying to do this to be selfish. Natasha and I did this because we knew it was affecting other people. We just didn't know the complete scale at the time, but it was truly to help us and to help everyone else. And we thought we were helping the business by telling all of them these things that we kept seeing, whether it be from rate confirmations to how they were doing things to SOPs. They literally flew us up to Dallas several times to ask us, hey, what's the importance of this? Hey, you do a lot of truckload. We aren't a very truckload heavy business historically, which was one of the reasons they bought GlobalTranz as well. Why do you need PODs? What's the importance of this? Why do you put language in the rate confirmations? Does it match with the carrier broker agreement? All these questions. I'm very confident at this point, I haven't been in the logistics industry for 30 years. I was like a baby at 30 years ago, but, I've learned a lot in a short period of time. I'm very confident I can go into any organization now and look from a third eye view and say, okay, this isn't good. This isn't good. You have liabilities here, et cetera. I was just on the phone with one of our customers the other day. They don't use us exclusively. And one of the largest brokers had just had a truck stolen, from one of their loads, because what I think is a simple SOP to prevent cargo theft from right now, they aren't doing any of it. And this is one of the largest brokerages in the U.S. And to me, it's just mind-blowing.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by FreightFlex. Ready to take control of your future? Freight agencies are everywhere, but how do you pick the right one? At FreightFlex, we're proud to offer the #1 freight agent program in the nation, backed by an unmatched tech stack and a world-class support team. It's time to ditch the corporate grind and build your own freight agency powerhouse. Take charge, earn what you're worth. Contact us today for a tech demo and see why FreightFlex is where business owners are built.
So it's like, I think.
Do you have a place where people that are interested in learning more about that can hit you up directly, like company owners that actually want that service, like that they can DM you, like something easy, simple? Do you have like Instagram, LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I have multiple. I have LinkedIn. It's just Dylan Admire, Freight Essentials. You'll be able to find me. I have Instagram. It's Dylan Admire, and then my email, which Tom could put. It's just D.Admire, like the word admire, at freightessentials.com. So anybody can reach out, and I'm more than happy.
Just message Dylan SOPs. You create a little framework response for more info, and boom, you can start helping people with SOPs like that. And that sounds like a great opportunity.
It's a huge thing right now. There's so many things that you need to be doing to protect your business.
It's a huge problem.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And okay, cool, Dill. Man, I just want to speak to the people at Worldwide at Global that are in charge. Obviously, this was a punch. I also do news for MMA Talk. And
very nice.
Big. If anyone has connections to UFC people, we want to make some kind of relationship deal with the UFC right now.
Oh, I love UFC. Vegas. We'll have to talk after the podcast. I love UFC.
Dude, fuck it. We could talk on here. I mean,
I have some connections with UFC. We went to UFC 299. I went to UFC 300. We went to UFC 309 in Madison Square Garden.
Let's go. Oh, that is sick. Yo, we are so going down that path. I just want to finish my train of thought to GlobalTranz and Worldwide. We'll wrap up logistics and we'll go into MMA because everyone fucking loves fighting and MMA, and this is a real logistics fight going on over here. 100%. But to be fair, my zodiac sign is a Libra, and so I feel like you've stated their position somewhat well. Like I felt empathy, genuine empathy on your side, trying to understand from their point of view and what they might say about you. And blowing to us where the bullshit is, etc. You know what I mean? you guys, like, if you guys want to hop on here and talk and clarify and just get your side of the story, like 100%, I'm open for talk through discussion, through debate. Like, the truth can come out. And I mean, that's how we get a better country. That's how we get a better business. That's how we get a better world. So, like,
100%.
let's fucking go. So, the fight game. You've been to some big battles. Do you have a favorite fighter?
What'd you say?
Do you have a favorite fighter right now, or historically overall?
I like Tom Aspinall a lot.
Okay.
UK guy.
Yeah.
I like him a
so
lot.
light on his feet for a heavyweight, so fast.
Yes.
Like campaigning for that fight against John Jones.
Because John's a great fighter. Now I think Dana pumps him up a lot. Now he's after this last fight, 311. He said John's not the pound for pound champion anymore.
Yes, Islam Makhachev is.
Islam is the pound for pound. So I don't know how John feels about that, but obviously John's strategic. He's had a great career. He's made a lot of money, but he picks his fights very precisely, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I honestly think, he's afraid to fight Tom Aspinall because, he's saying, it needs to be worth it, et cetera. But Tom's a dangerous fighter. I'm not saying to John, at UFC 309 when he went against Steve and he did that spinning back kick and just fucked Steve up in the rib. That was pretty sick. We were I was 7 rows from the octagon. We were sitting down on the floor. So, it was electric. Donald Trump was there. Elon Musk, whether you hate him or love him, it is what it is.
You were there? Oh, that is so sick, man.
So it was a great time. I love him. It's electric. It gets people riled up. One of my attorneys actually in Texas has part of an MMA gym down in Dallas, and they have several pros. So, like I said, I have a big sports background. I'm 32 now, so I'm not that old. He's like, you can't tell on camera when I'm 6'4", 305. I'm like, not a fat.
You're 6'4", 305?
Yes.
Get the fuck out. So, shit. When I said Berserker, I was fucking on point.
So I'm 6'5". I have abs. I'm in very good shape. I said I own a gym. I've been training for 7 years. My one attorney is begging to start fighting, and I have some wrestling background. It's like begging me. Oh, you're not too old. You're not too old. I said, well, Michael. First things first. Let's get the lawsuit taken care of. Once that's taken care of,
follow on course.
Yes.
Until successful.
Yes. I will come to Dallas. Start training. And I will start training. Football is very aggressive. I've done powerlifting. I love doing hard shit. Which is my personality and why I decided to take on a $5 billion company. But no, I would love to get into UFC. But that's why I tried to piggyback away. Michael and his gym. They have several guys on the UFC roster right now. And then I have a house out in Vegas. And that's where the UFC is headed for that. So
are you going to be at Manifest by any chance? February 10th to 12th? February 10th to 12th. Vegas.
I wasn't planning. What is it?
Pretty much it's a huge conference, lots of customers, brokers. I'll share my screen real quick and show everybody.
Let me write this down, man. Are you going to Manifest?
Fuck yeah, I'll be at Manifest. If anyone wants to do a podcast there, here's Dylan's LinkedIn. You guys can look him up. Fucking stud. And,
look at that handsome guy right there.
Manifest Vegas. Okay, so yeah, pretty much this is Manifest, the future of supply chain and logistics. From my understanding, it's like one of the newest conferences in the industry, and the global destination for supply chain and logistics innovation. Who should attend? Industry execs, entrepreneurs, investors. Who attends, and mayors, cool. You got like all the big boys, Walmart, and dude, let me show you. Look at this. Patrick Keller, CEO North America, DHL. Nordstrom, L'Oreal, crazy.
No, definitely. I know I'm going to do a show out in LA.
United Nations, man. Supply chain.
Is the whole FreightCaviar team going out?
Not this time. Not this time. It's just going to be me and Fire Eagle. He's our camera eye that's moves quick, acts fast, and so it'll be fun. We're just like a plug on our end. We're going to be flying into Chicago, meeting with some companies in Chicago, then road tripping. We're taking like a truck, and we'll be driving to Denver, meeting with some people in Denver, and then along the way to Vegas, we'll be just bushcrafting, camping, sleeping under the stars, filming some content, podcasts. Anyone that likes that kind of stuff, hit me up on Instagram, Tom Stawinski. I'm right now, my LinkedIn sucks. Don't check me there yet. I'll definitely
and
after that, Dylan, after Vegas, so we'll be in Vegas from the 10th to the 12th. And then I was actually planning to head to San Antonio for one of our cowboy customers that are amazing. Actually, podcast dropping with Travis Ahern, the one of the owners of Double Diamond, 100 truck carrier in San Antonio. Yeah, so I was thinking about heading there, but love Dallas. Maybe we could hit a gym in Dallas together potentially. Because where are you on a day-to-day basis?
So I have a headquarters in Hallandale Beach, Florida, so South Florida. And then I have a house out in Vegas. As well. So I go back and forth. I travel a lot, seeing customers, etc. No, I would love to do it. We can link up, hit a gym, do an in-person podcast. Maybe by then there will be evidence to share publicly. You know, we can throw some dust in the air together because I think like LeBron James.
In the desert dust of Vegas.
We could film a nice podcast or a reel throwing sand in the air, and then we can just have all the papers flying out of it.
If you guys would like to see that, let's make that happen. Drop some likes, drop your comments. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, and where we can dive deeper, where we can be better. And let's fucking go. Dylan Admire. Incredible warrior, berserker. And yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your war.
Yes.
And
thank you for having me, man. Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been very enlightful. It's been great to get to meet you on here. Hopefully we can meet in person. And we'll continue to keep you updated as things continue to transpire. Like I said, my goal is to just bring transparency, bring open and honesty. I mentioned it to several people. We didn't get into it on here much, but ultimately I think my long-term vision, I'd like to get into politics because same thing in politics. If you look at the Department of Transportation, not to bash the people who were previously running it, but they didn't know jack shit of what they were doing. It's why you're not seeing policies put into place from the DOT, the FMSCA, etc. Because you have people running these organizations who never actually were truck drivers or brokers, or they're just looking at a 100,000-foot view. So that's ultimately my long-term vision. I'd like to get into the political sector because I think a lot of change can be done. Very bold personality, like I said, you can look at last year, love them or hate them, I won't talk about politics, if I'm left or right, or left wing, etc. Very bold personality, and Donald Trump behind it. People not making changes, whatever side you're on. Next 4 years, the United States of America, what the economy is going to do well. I hope it's going to do very well. Small businesses needed to do well. But you have someone with a bold personality, say shit that maybe offend some people. People don't want to hear. It's no coincidence. Dave before he gets into office, he's fired. Israel ceasefire in office. Things happen. So demand respect. And you're a bold personality. You're bold personality. You're willing to have a difficult conversation. Like we talked about. Demand respect. At this point, I said I got live God willing. God has a plan for us, and I'm here to institute that plan. I can change over time. So that's long term. My long term goal is to get in the sector, make a change there. Maybe make a small change, or a big change in the trucking industry. Who knows where it goes? Someone tell me I should be president. Well, I'm only 32 years old. I couldn't even legally do it yet. Maybe we get into the DOT here in the next few years and implement some small change there. And maybe the people like me. And
you've got an episode. You've got an episode to get in the cage too. I mean, look at McGregor getting into politics. Overeem, the Paul brothers.
100%. McGregor was at the inauguration. The Paul brothers were at the inauguration. Dana White was there.
Dana White, yeah.
The Nelk boys were there.
People respect fighters, man. People respect warriors.
No, 100%. That's like what I said about athletics. There's a lot of stuff I want to do. I like doing big things. I don't want to do the same thing forever. No disrespect. I could not do the same thing for like 40 years. It's just not me. I want to do something really hard 4, 5, 6 years. Do something else really hard 5, 6 years. So, get done with this, however this looks, whether they settle or whether we got to take all the way to the end. Bygones be bygones. It'll happen. We will win. But then I'm very intrigued doing the UFC thing. My attorney, Michael, is like just sits in my ear over here like, you need to start training. We can get you ready in 2 years. I don't disagree with you, Michael, but I'm very obsessive. So if we're going to start training, I need to be able to put full force into the training.
Oh, that would be so sick, man. As you start to make that transition into your next move, you documenting that and stuff, I think that would be so awesome.
We can fly anywhere you want in the world, Tom, and we'll do some sparring together.
Dude, the day before, Paul is the founder. Big Berry Bear. You might I'm gonna fight till the day I die for letting everything out. The day before New Year's Eve, I tried a couple bites of a magic mushroom, and I got a little bit I'm like very sensitive to that kind of stuff. I don't really try it, but I like the concept that it's from the earth, and I love nature. Like, that's one of my missions in life, to just reconnect humans with nature through commerce, through talk, through history. And so I tried this magic mushroom, and after, so I got a little bit worried. I got a little bit in my mind, but I do Wim Hof breathing often, and so I start doing Wim Hof breathing, and Wim Hof's talking to me. He's talking me through it, and I'm just doing breathe in, breathe out, and he's just like an angel in my mind. I'm like, thank you, Wim, for being there for me. And then I start having these thoughts, these thoughts came to me about McGregor and Logan Paul are working on a fight in India right now that Chael Sonnen and everyone's criticizing. No fucking way it's going to happen. No way it's going to happen. But these mushrooms told me, yo, Tom, we think it's going to happen, and you've got to be there. And so, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But if that goes down, Dylan, join me in India.
I will so come to India to see that. I was at the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight in Dallas.
Sick.
I would 100. I've never been to India. I'd love to go over there. There's several countries I want to visit, Vietnam, etc. So if it happens, you and I are going. We're going to be ringside, and we'll see it go down. So that's too funny you mentioned that. I just watched the Aaron Rodgers documentary on Netflix, which you haven't seen. It's pretty cool. Having a football background. He talks the psychedelic going to those retreats.
Really?
I've known people.
Cool.
So going what you call it, the exact name. Retreats and they do the stuff.
It's kind of supervised a little bit. In South America.
And ministers to you. Begin to rugby name, where it's like from the earth. But
I also assume.
What's that?
Doesn't matter. Continue.
But I've had a lot of people who are known who've gone to those and have spiritual awakenings, and entrepreneurs who go to kind of try to free up their mind, and lots of interesting stuff that I think you look at the world of medicine. I said we've had a lot of customers in the nutritional supplement industry. I think the world of medicine is going to change drastically. It's a relatively new industry. I mean, supplements weren't big in the 90s. Even in the early 2000s, you had the Cyto Sports and a few different, muscle techs, but, it's a very growing field that should be exciting when it comes to athletic performance and mental health, mental clarity, all that kind of stuff.
Amazing, dude. Amazing. Dylan, man, I can chat with you. We've got a lot of interesting things in common. Let's be in contact on Instagram, and as I land in the US, we can plan something.
Yeah, let me know, man. We'll definitely meet in person. I can plan to come to that deal out in Vegas, and we'll make some waves.
Beautiful. Let's go, brother. Have a great day, man. Have a great week. It's Tuesday.
I appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you later.
I appreciate you. We're in touch.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Freight Caviar Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, or if you didn't, leave a review. Let me know what you think. I appreciate any feedback. If you'd like to have more Freight Caviar content, go to freightcaviar.com and subscribe to my email newsletter.